We have our panelists with us today, and welcome to the third season of Dialogue with Educationists. And I welcome all of you. So, namaste and a very good morning to everyone present here. Welcome to the third episode of Dialogue with Educationists, which is a weekly discussion of educationists across the globe to basically brainstorm and discuss ideas on transformation and sustainability of today's education system. So today we discuss on a very powerful topic, which is peer-to-peer exposure and ecosystem, which can be obtained through digital learning. I am Disha Jain, head of brand and PR at Metamorphosis. We are an edutech organization that enables entrepreneurial skill sets in students right from the very young age. We aim to empower students with the knowledge of entrepreneurs' life journey, and we've recently launched the world's first school, which is the Metamorphosis School for Entrepreneurship. So, without any further delays, let me introduce to you the panelists today. We have with us Lieutenant Colonel A. Shekhar, retired. He's a soldier educationist, leader, trainer, mentor, resource person, and an academician for over 30 years. Education has always been his passion, played lots of leadership roles in the armed forces, and after retirement from the army, many directorial roles in various education systems. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. We also have Commander V.K. Banga, sir. He's the former chairman of Indian Public Schools Conference, the IPSC, and the principal of the MUN School, Delhi. Serving the Indian Army for 25 years and with over 40 plus years of experience in the education industries as principals, we're honored to have him share our thoughts with you. Thank you for joining us, sir, today. Our third panelist is Mrs. Neeta Arora, currently the principal of Sri Venkateshwara International School, Dwarka. She has over 39 years of experience in the education and teaching field, and also a consultant to the British Council. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today for this panel discussion. Our final panelist, we have Mrs. Nikita Tomar Man, who is the principal of Tagore International School, Vasant Vihar, which is in Delhi. She has a postgraduate diploma in school leadership and management and comes with an extensive experience of over 2 decades in the teaching experience of ICSE, ISC, and CBSE boards. So we're glad to have you as well, ma'am. Thank you for joining us today. So once again, I thank all the panelists for being here with us today. And I'm really thrilled to be starting off this episode of Dialogue with Educationists. And I'm sure all the attendees who are with us today are really excited to know how we could establish this peer-to-peer exposure within the industry. So before we begin, just a few guidelines to the viewers and panelists. Viewers, if you have any questions, I would just request you to put it in the Q&A button, which is at the bottom. And please do not put in any questions in the chat box. All right. Any other discussions apart from questions can happen over the chat box and we will reach out to you. Panelists, we're just looking for a good, enriching 50 minutes conversation, and then we'll take up a few questions as well. So let's start off today's session. Hand it over to you, Colonel Shekhar, sir.
Right. Good morning, namaste, kushamdeen, salam alaikum. Wonderful. Thank you, Disha, for this very succinct introduction. And thank you, Metamorphosis, for this very reflective conversational opportunity. As I see on my panel, well over 100 years of experience is looking at me, threatening me, intimidating me, saying, well, Colonel Shekhar, let us sort you out. Rather than even thinking on those terms, it is a most humbling experience to be here. 100 years plus of experience, that means if you put them all together, they would have been here before the pandemic, the last major pandemic started. That's a good place to start off with. And as we go along with the discussion, we'll request all the viewers, attendees, to keep sharing their thoughts and ideas, and we will take them on as much as we can in this very interactive, reflective conversation. The topic given, Disha has already highlighted, and I'll go straight to the first question. And my first question is, hopefully, to the youngest panelist we have. I have a lot of gray hair. Commander Banga is displaying his age very specifically. So it's quite clear that the youngest is Mrs. Nikita Tomar from a very famous school, from named after one of our Nobel laureates. The first question for you, ma'am, is the overview. Where were you in your mindset before the pandemic started? What was your response during the initial phases? After a while, how did it settle down? And where are you today? You have approximately 90 seconds for the answer. Please, Nikita Tomar, ma'am, your turn. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Shekhar. So before the pandemic, I think we were in classrooms doing our classes the usual way. Of course, as a school, we use technology on a daily basis in our lessons. So it was not something that was unknown to us. Yet we did not know that that is the only savior that is going to come to our rescue once the pandemic hits us. So once the pandemic hit us and there was a closure of schools in the month of March, we were already into classes for classes 10th and 12th by then. So we moved immediately to online classes for 10th and 12th in the month of March. And we were looking at a new session from the first week of April for all the rest of the classes of the school. We explored the platform that we will be using. We explored a safe online platform. That was the first thing that we went for. We understood that now the students are in the cyber world. We needed to have a cyber safety policy in place. So that was the second thing that we did. We drafted a cyber safety policy for the school, circulated it to all the classes and parents for them to have understood the etiquettes and the requirements. And that's how we went ahead. Then we looked at classes which could bring in vibrancy in terms of not only academics, but bringing in all the activities into it, so psychological well-being, the training sessions for the students, workshops, competitions, the intra-class events that the students enjoy in regular schooling. So the whole idea was to lend a very school-like routine to the students, and we went ahead with that.
Thank you, madam, for setting the stage. I'll pick up from what you said, the socio-emotional, psychological part of it. Mrs. Arora, 40 years is more than a thought process. It is what we call earlier 2 generations. Now we'll say 8 generations in terms of thought. How did you handle the remarkable tectonic shift which happened? The mindsets, how did you as a leader get the mindsets of the teachers, parents, and students and get them right as we went through some very difficult pandemic times? Mrs. Arora, please.
In fact, in February itself, we were thinking, why is the lockdown not being announced? What are we waiting for? We continued to take our exams, and by 7th of February, 7th March, we declared the results for 9th and 11th. So they got promoted. And other exams, only one exam was left on 13th. And then Holi happened. And we all thought that after Holi, the temperatures would rise and maybe India would not show such a surge. And then a lot of hue and cry about Indians having malaria or Indians having BCG vaccine. And we really thought the numbers in India are not rising as much as in Europe. This is the first time we felt very safe being an Indian. We thought US and Europe are suffering. But unfortunately, it was just a myth. And when it struck us properly in, say, May, June, July, April, it was fine. So we started kind of preparing for the classes. I remember on 19th March, I told my teachers there's a possibility we'll not come back to school. So please take all the books and resources that you have to take. There is a possibility the schools will close. And the same evening, the lockdown was announced. We were in the middle of CBSE correction of some papers. And those had to be very carefully sealed. And we were wondering what will happen next. One exam was left, we had it online, first time a final exam online for grade 6 to 8. We asked the parents to supervise, the children turned in the paper. And when we checked the result, it was as much on expected line. So I think the parents were very good invigilators. And this year, we started our 11th class on 23rd March itself, because we realized children are now locked in. They cannot go out, they cannot unwind. So better to keep them engaged. So we started a bridge course for 11th, 10th, and 12th had already started on 16th March.
Right.
In fact, it was the first year when I held a PTM on 28th March and started the section on 29th itself rather than waiting for 1st April. Only preschool started from 1st April. Rest of them started. The whole school looked normal. We didn't want children to feel that they are missing out on something. And when I saw in my own colony where I live, I didn't find even a single child playing from 21st March onwards. So the schools kept the children occupied. The parents were home, so they were very good for us because the parents made the children familiar with the online platform. We took Zoom initially, And then some parents started asking us, we don't want Zoom, ma'am. My office, my laptop, I cannot download Zoom in it. I will not allow this. Is going to compromise my cyber security. So we started looking for better platforms or safer ones. We experimented with 2, 3, not exactly experimented. We made an IT team work on it. We selected one.
Yeah,
And
thank you, madam. Yeah, that's the initial time. I'll request you to pause now. I'll let Commander Banga take on some of the challenges which we face. Nikita, madam, set the stage. You gave some of the solutions. And Commander Banga, what were the real big challenges you faced as we moved from a face-to-face classroom with a little bit of technology into a full-fledged online classroom with fear of being fired being there, fear of life being there? How did you handle it? What are your thoughts? Your 90 seconds start now.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, as both the madam said, earlier we are going through a different phase in the classrooms, and now we have started up a little different manner online. I'm very fortunate that where I was working in the MAN school, students were used to the online assessments and the thing which were a regular feature in our school. So we did not face much of the problem switching over from there to the online classes, because people were using at home earlier. They were giving a certain type of facilities, and parents did cooperate in that manner, and the students started taking the online classes from 3rd of April onwards. Now, initially, everywhere, I think some problem came, same thing came over here also, which we easily could solve it by talking to the parents, making them available all the gadgets, whatever are required. And we also ensured that these challenges are being solved with the cooperation of teachers and the parents. Parents and teacher dialogue in between, they resolve this entire thing. For example, the students were getting some internet connectivity problems initially. Yes, some of the parents, there are 2 children at home, and the 2 different sessions have to be started. So initially parents did cooperate. One was given the mobile phone of mother, or one was given the mobile phone of the father. They started cooperating in each manner, and fortunately everything went off very well. Now the assessment is also going
Great,
on.
sir.
Definitely helping.
Great, sir. So the 3 principles are clear that after the initial challenges, they were able to tackle it well, and they have shown real leadership in handling it. Now we go to the next set of questions with a preamble that at best connectivity in India for the internet is about 35% with a heavy urban bias. Because you are in Delhi, it has been relatively easier. Across India, there has been significant challenges. We may not go into it as of now because that's not part of the remit. My second question, we start off with Mrs. Arora right away. Education, skilling, and entrepreneurship. India produces some of the largest number of IT and engineering graduates. Something close to, we have a capacity of 16 lakh, brought down to 12 lakhs. Hopefully it will come down more. And you and I know better that well over 60 to 70% of them, in the words of one of our icons, Dr. Narayana Murthy, they are unemployable. So in this context, as an educator, as a scholastic leader, as an instructional leader, how do you read the academics, the skilling, and the entrepreneurship equation? And how do you think we should proceed with it? Mrs. Arora.
I think COVID has had its problems for everybody, but it also has a very positive fallout for us, as well as for, I'm sure, students. Many students turned entrepreneurs. Many students took things in their hands, and they started owning up their learning. They started spreading it. As we talk about peer-to-peer learning today, there was so much happening. There were 8 children who organized an international foreign tech event, and the events that they organized were not even what my teachers could think of. So when we allowed the children to organize events online, it was better than what I could have conceived or my team could have conceived. So we're very proud that the children have become more confident because we gave them freedom and responsibility. They organized 2 Behes national level, and they also organized a social service camp. Like there were 48 girls who were teaching government school children how to communicate in English. So if your soft skills are fine and your otherwise academic skills are fine, then I don't think that employability would be issue for such children.
Great. Ma'am, very succinct answer. I like the way you presented it. However, you are part of what I would consider an elite school in terms of what you are doing it as processes and systems. You might be in India, only 26% of our students reach college. Delhi and Tamil Nadu, 50 of them reach college, 50 out of 100. In this context, Commander Banga, my question is to you. You have been a hands-on sailor. You have worked in Sainik schools regularly. You have been part of the profession outside. How do you see skills and entrepreneurship developing? And what is the role of new age establishments like Metamorphosis in this context? Commander Banga, please. Please unmute yourself, Commander Banga.
Yes, sir. Now you can hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Now regarding this entrepreneurship only, I think the best part is that there are certain qualities and characteristics which are required for any student. That is, they should be disciplined, confident enough, competitiveness should be there. They should know how to start. They should be creative. They should have a passion for it. No, these are the certain qualities for any entrepreneurship to be required. I will not hesitate naming one, though it will not be right on my part to say openly in this, but Oyo is a one example. For example, they started at 19 years of age. He was too young. Now, over a short period of time, they spread out thinking from a small task, and they took it and build up the things. Likewise, in the students, when they are in the school, they can be guided on these parts. Their vision, their creativity should be as much as encouraged, and then let them implement it. Let it be anything, because you never know what they are going to see tomorrow. That is how the school leaders should work, and they should encourage the teachers and as well as to the students. That should help.
Right. Good answer, great answer, but I will take up issue with that. In our schools, and this is straight to Nikita madam, in our schools, we are so much focused on the academics, the academic processes. I, for one, am very, very happy that this COVID is trying to change the establishment and the ecosystem and the architecture of a school, because we have been among the most resistant to change. Let me assure you, the normal school in anywhere in India is stricter in terms of compliance and discipline than the armed forces. 8 baje class hona hai to 8 baje hona hi hona hai. To that extent, there is a rigidity to the system. And also, do we encourage the concept of skilling inside our schools and entrepreneurship, especially in the context of parents? So what is Tagore School doing? How do you make these skills more important? And as of now, we have all talked about our careers and our experience. I don't think Disha has asked any of our class 10 or class 12 marks before she made us a panelist. So in this context, how do you integrate academics, entrepreneurship, and skilling, especially in a world where failure in the Indian education system is not easily accepted? Mrs. Nikita, please.
Right. So, Colonel Shekhar, as a school, not only now, we've always believed that academics is only about 50% of what the school is all about. It is the other 50% which makes or breaks you in the world beyond school. Because like you rightly said, it's not just about the marks. So marks may be just one of the filtering processes, but ultimately what sets you apart is, your other skills, your communication skills, all the 21st century skills that we all talk about, the 4 C's that everybody's been speaking about, the collaboration, critical thinking, communication. So as a school, we lay a lot of emphasis on competency-based education, which is something that the CBSE is suddenly talking about, prominently in all forums. there is a lot of scope for students to develop skills in terms of entrepreneur skills. I would say as a school, we run a lot of social campaigns, and we've not been running it now. We've been running it for the past 14 years. We are the only school in India which runs a campaign for, a human rights campaign, which we call it, for the LGBTQI plus community. We are the only school in the country which participates in the Gay Pride Parade. We believe that individuality needs to be respected. You need to accept diversity, and that is a norm that students should wake up to, because this is the century where they're going to face more and more of this. We have a campaign called the Flawless Floors for the the acid attack survivors. These are the kind of campaigns that we look at the rehabilitation. We are also looking at providing them employment. So we've gone a step ahead. So students are engaged in a lot of things where there's a lot of skill building in terms of the things that they will require beyond just getting the marks. When we're talking about collaboration, the seating arrangement in our school is something that encourages collaboration. We have a group seating arrangement right to class 8 where students, so peer learning, parent share, these are part and parcel of our curriculum. This is the way we transact curriculum. So right from childhood, this is what they learn.
Right. Great. I mean, in all my webinars, and I've been attending quite a few, this is the first time LGBT has come into space. Congratulations for mentioning it. So because acid attack, these are the people which we have tackled. And I'll share with you a story from a Bombay school where 3 young boys shared their sexuality. Somehow it got leaked, and the principal had a trying time saving them from committing something unfortunate. So there is a hue, and it's wonderful that Tagore is doing it. And I remember getting a Devdasi's daughter, you would know, Shweta Katti, who's a UN ambassador, getting her to my school, and how when I hosted her for dinner at my house with the trustees, how we changed, and how children within a matter of 30 minutes collected over ₹1 lakh for her to go to the UN. So our children are great. Often we as the adults who will not see 22nd century decide the future of these children.
Correct.
Now to Commander Banga. This is your lead question, sir, in this context. Now, whether it's Nikita Tomar, Nita, or you, we are all talking in terms of what we have done, following up with the physical environment we have created over the last so many years. Now, in a completely digital environment, how do you encourage collaboration? How do you get children to teach, support each other? And as I see it, students in high-rise localities have even forgotten how to say good morning during these pandemic times. So how do we do it? How can digital education, despite its limitations, become a collaborative, peer-supporting force? Commander Banga.
Thank you, sir. Now, this is once you have said the peer-to-peer connection, I think that the digital one method, earlier also they were talking, maybe on a WhatsApp, Facebook and other things. But now we have to bring them down to this level, making them understand, talk something creative and constructive among themselves. So when teachers are giving, I'll give an example only, when teachers are giving the home assignments, they can always say, give a topic to a couple of students, different topics. Let them discuss something among themselves on that particular topic. And that topic can be concluded together by one of them as a from the group of 4 or 5 students, and then share with the teacher. So this will set up a tuning between the students, digital method, and as well as let them be connected with this entire process of learning. So this creative part will definitely help them learn something better.
Thank you, sir. I'll go to Nita madam with a question which has come from Sangeeta Vashishta. She is asking how to channelize child energy, productivity, and judge his or her entrepreneurial skills. The moment I hear the word judge, I get a sick feeling in my stomach. Yet I pass on this question with the right of a moderator to you, Nita ma'am. How do we do it? Ma'am, you are muted.
As you rightly said, children should not be judged. They should be allowed to work, and give them an environment in which they can work freely without much interference from adults. if teachers or parents keep on telling them, do this, then where will they learn? And you give them a task and let's see how they accomplish it. Believe me, if the task is beyond them, they will not come to you. They'll go and ask a friend. And when they go and ask a friend, this is what peer-to-peer learning would also happen. And they will go to another friend if this friend cannot help. So there will be a group of children trying to solve a problem, and together they will come with a beautiful model. Just give them time and do not judge them by what your yardstick of success or ethics is. Sometimes their way of working may not be to you, or they may not even understand what they're saying. So listen to them. Sometimes they come out with more beautiful answers than I can conceptualize. I don't even have that kind of mindset which they have currently, and I must give them that respect and freedom. And I have seen children going beyond any expectation that parents or teachers put upon them. It is said that if you have to talk ill of your child, please do it when the child is not listening. But let the child overhear all the good things that you can say. And when you say that my child can do it, anybody can do it, the child will do it. 2 साल का बच्चा बिल्कुल नहीं डरता, लेकिन डर ही सिखाते हैं जैसे जैसे बच्चा बड़ा होता था. ये करेगा गिर जाएगा, ये करेगा हाथ जल जाएगा.
Wonderful, ma'am. If I hope parents are listening to this last 60 seconds or so, it was an object lesson in how to treat your children. Now I get to you, Nikita, ma'am. Failure is a worse 4-letter word in India than anything which starts with the F word. Failure is something which we hate. I remember in many cases, the question is asked, Dad, I've got 97 out of 100. वो 3 mark कहाँ चला गया तेरा? तू पढ़ा नहीं क्या? Or I've scored, I am the topper in the class. School में कोई और student नहीं है क्या? So there is this inherent sense, and when I shared about failures and conducted or attempted to conduct failure week, I can realize the opposition to it. So my point is entrepreneurship, skills, academics. Please follow up from what Neeta madam said. How do you get them to understand, respect, and learn from failures? Over to you, ma'am.
Right. So when we talk about failure, I think whenever we are discussing failure here, we are talking about failure in academics. Somehow that is what the concept of failure is. We as a school and all of us should look at multiple intelligences. We should look at what is available to our children as something that is in terms of competencies that they have, their success in terms of competency, their success in terms of what their achievements are in the areas of interest. So when you're saying failure, you may be talking about them not doing particularly well in one aspect, but they may be doing brilliantly well in something that they are very good. So how can we be using and tagging any child with the word failure? So my understanding of it would be that whenever we are at school, we are always encouraging children and reflecting on what is the good that they have done in their area of competencies, rather than talk about where they have not done well, because you're trying to judge a fish by its ability to climb the tree. It's one of those things. So everybody is intelligent in their own way. That one, acceptance of this. 2, accepting that it is not about failure in only academics that we discuss. A child he may be brilliant at academics, may be a failure in music. I mean, do we discuss it? But we never discuss it. We only talk about failure in terms of marks and percentages. So I think the whole idea of how we look at failure needs to be changed. We need to understand that failure is a very subjective thing. It depends on you. It depends on me. For me, a 97% is brilliant result. For you, it may be that, no, somebody should have got a 99%. So I think we need to change ourselves as adults on how we view students, how we view children. What are the parameters that we've set for their success? And failure and success depends on that eventually.
Right. Ma'am, it's fascinating you talk about. And one of the things, and I make a very direct and maybe provocative statement, the most difficult parents I have seen are teacher parents. The teacher parents are so bugged in about their children's results and sharing it with their colleagues that it becomes even more difficult. And I've seen that hypocrisy come through. Coming to you, Commander Banga, I'll come back to you, Neeta ma'am. You raised your hand. I'll definitely give you space to answer. This is a fascinating part. Commander Banga, would India have won the 71 war if we had not learned from the failures of the 62 war? and whatever mistakes we have done earlier. So my question to you is, why are we, and we know that the most educated do not perform well in the battlefield. And it's even more fascinating. Some of your so-called worst disciplinary characters have won gallantry awards fighting for the country. So there are so many of these nuances. So my question to you, sir, is why are we not recognizing failures in our scholastic system with the respect it deserves? 9 out of our 10 startups fail. Virat Kohli fails 56% of his time, yet we do not recognize failure as stepping stones for success. Commander Banga, please.
Thank you, sir. It's a very nice question. I'll say we must recognize, as you said very correctly, first of all, we must point out, or first we must find out why the individual failed. As you said, in 62 hour and 71 difference, you are trying to bring it out. It's the right example. And same thing, we must do it in school also. We must find out why the student has become a failure or could not do well. I will not call the term failure, should be called over there, could not perform well. I think this is the right term which we should use. Now, the reason to find out why he could not perform well, there are two things. First, the teacher must encourage and guide the student. Please learn from this. At the same time, in the PTM or in some other method, parents also should be guided. Please encourage your students to do well. Now, coming down to your second part, sir, as you said rightly, why these failures or the so-called not performing well are doing well. Believe me, sir, they are the people actually those who are highly creative. And their creativity was not recognized at the right place. So they might not grow in appropriate time, but certainly as they grow and they go in the battlefield, this creativity works there and they prove themselves. And the moment they prove themselves, they are recognized.
Great. Disha, can we take a few questions? Questions are coming thick and fast. Can I go for a few questions, Disha?
Sure, sir. We can take up a couple.
Right. First, now I'll get to Triksha Nirwal, youngster, I believe. She has fired questions left, right, and center. Interesting. Why do parents force children to work or eat food? And she's repeated it. She's virtually threatening me. Please answer my question. I do not know who she is, but it's fascinating. And after this, I'll come to you, Neeta ma'am. You can answer both. There is a specific question for you from Kamini Haldar. Nikita ma'am, why do you as a principal, why do I as a parent, why do I as a grandfather force children to work or eat food? Why don't we leave them free?
All right. So I'll just answer the question. I would not say that parents always force you to work or eat. They just expect you to follow a certain routine, a structure to your day. And that is why they tell you to do certain things at certain times, because they understand that, if you have a routine and you are able to use your time effectively during the day, there's more productivity and it will add value to your day. So that's the only reason why I think parents, teachers, whoever it is, keep telling you that please work. As far as eating is concerned, yes, good nutritious habits, having a fixed time for your meals is something probably as youngsters you may not realize, but it starts impacting your health over a period of time. And you will realize that when you keep healthy, when you hardly are taken ill, the number of days that are available to you to do so much more in your life is available to you, whereas it would not be available to somebody who's given to illness every now and then. So these are little things that parents realize with experience and they guide you to do these things. So I would call it force, but they do try to, for a child, I understand it may be pestering, but as a parent, I think they have only your best interest and love in their hearts, and they want to guide you towards structuring your day and understanding that eating food at a particular time is important.
Right. Yeah, I get you. I'll come back to you, sir. बच्चे बोलेंगे फिर एक लेक्चर दे दिया प्रिंसिपल मैडम और मॉडरेटर मिलके, अरे यार हमें कुरकुरे खाने दे, हमें सोने दे, क्यों हमारे पीछे पड़ा हुआ है. Commander Banga, I'll come back to you because Neeta madam has to. I'll come back to you, sir, because you will take I'll come back to you, sir. Neeta Arora madam, does our education system provide a scope to judge and polish multiple skills of students where learning is rote and marks oriented and degrees fetched come ahead of knowledge. Kamini Haldar. And you can also add, I'll give you a little extra time about failure also you want to talk. The next question will be for you, Bangasa. Yeah, Neeta Arora, madam.
Hello, Kamini. Kamini, in a school which believes in making the children own up their learning, there would always be ample opportunities for developing their multiple intelligences. And it depends upon parents. If the parents are only marks oriented, then the children would be made to remain focused on it. But nowadays, parents are very wise and they allow the children to participate till at least grade 8 in all the activities. So children have by 8 understood that what are their strengths, and good parents allow them till 12th also. I mean, children can, I have had toppers who would take part in sports and co-curricular activities like anything. They would also be making presentations and they will also be doing enterprise challenge. It's not that they cannot do. We have to just let them be, allow them be. The education system is not bad. Believe me, CBSE has so much scope for children to experiment. I have a child who's taken applied arts. It's just got into DC in Bachelor of Design from Commerce Stream. How many would have thought that DTU, Delhi Technological University, as well as IIT Mumbai is possible for this child from commerce background? Is that we are very unaware as parents and we think only certain lines can make them do well. So we insist on science and maths. There could be a child who doesn't enjoy maths, but the child could have a future elsewhere. Allow the child to say, there is a girl in maths. There was a girl who was good in photography. I discovered that love in her in 9th and 10th. Before that, she was an extreme failure in academics. But now she has settled faster than any other of her batchmates in 12th itself, started getting projects and started making money.
Right.
Failures.
Right, ma'am.
A failure in the eyes of children is not only in academics. It could be a failed relationship. It could be a failed homework that teacher did not assess properly or did not even notice them, or a mother not giving them a pat, or a friend not talking to them. For them, failure is not only just examination. It could also be a game lost. I've seen adults losing when these cricketers lose the games. And there are huge and cry, and then people go and throw stones at cricketers' home. So people have different yardsticks of developing failure or handling failure. I think failures are to be celebrated. How many of us have ever posted any post about our failures on our social media? How many of us have ever talked about failures in our classes? I have done that when I used to talk to children about project work in biology. I say my first question, my viva, I cried. I was the best student, still I did not answer the very first question. So the children understand it is right to not answer and still be the best student.
Right.
So all have to share failure stories.
Right.
Children
Great,
will learn.
ma'am. Yeah, that's a great thought to move to the next question on, ma'am. Firstly, vulnerability. We believe, and it's a bigger problem with we men folk, we are not supposed to cry. We are not supposed to show our emotions. That is one. Yeah. Secondly, there is, yeah. Secondly, there is this
picture. Mothers are wired. Parental care is wired into them. You've seen चिड़िया अपने चोंच से खिलाती है, तो हम कैसे नहीं खिलाएंगे अपने बच्चों? More you run after them, they know माँ ने आना ही तब है जब मैं रोऊंगा या मैं खाना नहीं खाऊंगा. आप एक बारी छोड़ दो, एक लंच मिस करने दो, अपने आप बच्चा खाना मांगे.
अपने आप बच्चा खाएगा. No, this is something fascinating. There was a dog taken to a veterinarian. The owner said the dog is not eating anything. So he said, he looked at the dog and said, leave the dog here and come back after 3 days. After 3 days, the owner walked in and the dog jumped onto the biscuit packet he had. So the doctor was asked, sir, Kamal kar diya, what did you do? I let the dog starve for the last 3 days and everything sorted out. And adding on to that point, this Sir Ken Robinson in one of his great talks, he said, how does God look like? He asked a student. And the child said, wait a minute, I'll show you how God looks like. So the point is, we decide how their imagination is. And we also highlight that we tell people that failure is unacceptable, where failure is the stepping stone to success. And in fact, Clyde Christensen, the very famous Harvard, sadly no more earlier this year, he did a study of his Harvard Business School MBAs. After 5 years, on top of the world, after 10 years, slowly divorces happening. After 15 years, children not talking to them. After 20 years, over 60% of them not with their families. So as you pointed out, a so-called failure did settle down much better in life is something we don't understand. Commander Banga, the question to you is simple. Further to that failure thing, how to make children read more and more books in this digital age. How do we do that? The question is to you, sir.
Good, sir. First of all, I'll just add on to what Nikita madam said earlier, and you have asked this question, which I wanted to just add in one line. Let us not compel or force the children for eating. Let us make them understand the need of it. The moment you make them understand the need of it and the willingness, I think the purpose will be solved. Now, coming down the parallel lines with you for reading habits when they are in the digital this thing. Now here, child at that particular age, where the scenario is there, they parents, everybody, teachers keeps on telling them, read your academic book. I think here the role comes of the parents and teachers again to give them some fiction books and give them some assignments to make them compulsory read and then write and send it back to the teachers. That will help in compulsory reading to them. Slowly they will realize it. Reading is a good habit, and automatically they will start following it. Because first we got to make them understand this is a good habit. Now, coming down to this part only, I will add only, nowadays a new technique has come called as descriptive assessments. Now this also will improve their writing skills apart from compulsory reading. Now, which I can take little later on if the time permits. So
Right, sir. Right. Yeah. This is now, I mean, questions are coming thick and fast. That means that we have struck a chord somewhere. Nidhi Devan, during this COVID-19 timing, how can we encourage the students to develop entrepreneurial skills? It's an interesting question. And I would also, along with Nikita madam, Disha also to give as to what you guys are doing to improve entrepreneur skills. Nikita madam first.
Right, sir. So, I think the digital world has opened a plethora of things that students can do because they are digital natives. They are so comfortable with technology, and now we've kind of given them sanction to use technology to the hilt. All this while we said reduce screen time, don't spend too much time. Suddenly the same people who professed to, say that it is something wrong are now telling them that, you can't help it. This is the only medium available.
No, so, they are saying, madam, can I buy you an Apple Mac or can I buy you an iPad? Yeah.
A better device. So we have had students who've suddenly come up and they've written mails to me saying that, ma'am, I'd like to now organize a webinar. I'd like to do a webinar on a particular topic. So there was a child who, when the PM announced the financial package to salvage the economy, that is the time when he said that I would like to do a webinar on this to discuss the pros and cons of it, how it's going to impact us. And this is a class 10 student. So we organized, he got the resource person, the children organized the entire thing, the introduction, the chat, chat box questions, everything was organized by the students, and they managed it help, and we were invited as guests for their webinar. So it was very interesting to see how students, kind of are honing their skills during this period. We had another child who came up with the idea that, ma'am, I'd like to start a project where I have realized that my grandparents are not very comfortable with technology. So I have realized that it is the senior citizens who need help at this time, and we are very comfortable with it. So let's bring, if we want to do a project where we reach out to senior citizens to teach them how to use technology, how to use a smartphone, So there are students who are coming up with various ideas, and there are the summer internship programs which teach you entrepreneurial skills. Even Metamorphosis is one of them, which offered a lot of internships to students. So hands-on training through the digital medium. So there's lots that you can do. And I think this is bringing out the entrepreneur in the student to the fore.
Yeah, great answer. Disha, you can add on something without over-publicizing Metamorphosis.
Yeah, just to add on, see, today we're all in a world of uncertainty, and that's what we're actually wanting students to understand, that you need to accept change and mold yourself with change, because nothing is very definite in the future. So we just as a company teach them, adapt to things, take risks in life, and that is how we teach them through an entrepreneur's journey. So we give them a lot of references to a lot of entrepreneurs who've gone through a lot of problems. There are a lot of ups and downs, and that's where we relate. And that's how we teach them. Just that one point to add.
Right. There is another question. This failure thing has struck a chord again. Why do we not recognize failures? Can failures too be appreciated in the society which we are living? Vishwajit Pandey, Triksha Nirwal छोड़ते नहीं हैं हम लोगों को. How we can prepare students to adjust to failure? How can failure not be a taboo? This I will answer taking the privilege of a moderator myself. In the first year, I had done well in my MSc. I walked in, got 14 jobs. I went into the Indian Military Academy. I did not know my head or tail. I was in a blue funk. I was a debater. My English was considered reasonably good. I played cricket. Nobody could care for cricket in the military academy. Do you run? Do you swim? Are you hard at it? And I was a swimming failure. The world went upside down. And even more importantly, because I was a swimming failure, all swimming failures were made to take off their mustaches. Imagine the trauma a 22-year-old goes through. A friend of mine said, he came across, he said, I will teach you swimming. And I told him, I'll make you run. And sure enough, I got him to run 5 kilometers in, it was 2 miles at that time. You have to run it in under 12 minutes with your packs. He taught me swimming. It came to the extent that they wrote to my parents that if he doesn't pass swimming, he will be relegated. All hell broke loose. So from there started my journey. And now 32 years after that, I've been done pretty badly in my life too. So the point I'm trying to say is those things make you understand. And that lesson I took was I made sure in both my Sainik and military schools, every student learned swimming. Parents used to cry saying that, why are you forcing it? I said, I do not want anyone to go through what I have gone through. Great. Now that we have got everyone involved, I'll get back to you, Neeta Arora, madam, in terms of academics, skilling, entrepreneurship. You are the CBSE chairman and you are responsible for the national curriculum framework, which is coming up now. What are the 3 things you will do to improve the so-called syllabus and the curriculum to make our students more skill and entrepreneurial oriented? This question will come to every one of you. I'm starting off with Neeta ma'am. Thank you.
It will be important to realize that children work together as a team. So the collaboration and project way of working will make them realize how to collaborate. Peer-to-peer learning will happen and they can take various dimensions of a project. My class preschool, primary 1 and 2 write a book together. 4 children write a book together at such young age. One of them is illustrator, one thinks of a story idea, one of them makes the book design and the other one writes, whoever can write, or the teachers write for them. We allow them to write in whatever way, we don't edit it. And then the teacher just staple those 5 pages and their book is ready. And they make 5 copies of those books. 1 copy is the teacher, 4 they all take. And if they can collaborate to make a book, imagine these children when they grow up can get into publishing, they can go into designing, they can go into animation, they can go into any field. So you make each class do, and that is what we're going to do. CBSE has talked about art integration in a big way, so that children can realize things in more than 2 dimensions, as well as project integrated learning, and that is happening better now with online, and it will continue further. Upskilling, yes. We also have a very active AI, STEM, and financial management club, because these are new subjects the CBSE offered, and we immediately took them, and grade 9 onward, children have opted for these subjects, and this will also help them. Plus, they have an enterprise challenge club now, separate club. It was there, but now it has become taken more of, and we are allowing children to, before this COVID happened, they were doing a lot of activities in school, and I'm sure they're thinking of ideas which will they share later. Some of them even raised money through organizing munds and debates and behas and gave to charities. So I think these children are already there.
Already there.
Only me and you who think that job is the only way must be.
Right. Commander Banga, you are the CBSE chairman responsible for the national curriculum framework. What are the 3 things you will do to improve skill and entrepreneurship thought processes into the curriculum as such?
Sir, in one line, if I say the best part of learning is always doing it practically. We should emphasize on more on application oriented teaching and more on the practical part. The more they will do it, automatically they will learn on the spot then and there. Because unless and until a student undergoes practically certain problems, they won't be either in a position to capture it, remember, and then implement it. Automatically their creativity will work and they will start finding a solution to the problem, which will help them when they are going as an entrepreneurship later on at a later stage in the life. They will come across and they will be finding a solution to it.
Right. Yeah. Nikita Thoma ma'am, I'll slightly nuance the question because the two of them answered it. What are the changes in the teacher training programs we have to bring in to meet teachers go beyond marks and think about skilling and what I say, livelihood and life itself? Do you want to be happy in life? You will get 2 ice creams. You will be happy for the moment. Do you want to be peaceful long term? That means you have a job which you enjoy. You are part of it. You enjoy failures and successes in the same platform, and you are able to live a harmonious life. So in that context, what are the changes you would recommend in the teacher training programs which we have with your Tagore perspective?
Okay, so that's a wonderful question, Colonel Shekhar. I mean, this is a sore point with all of us that somewhere the training program for teachers needs to undergo a change, even so-called the B.Ed, which we talk of, and the curriculum that they have and how they train the teachers. You wanted to add something?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to have teachers without B.Ed coming to my school.
Absolutely.
It's much easier to make them learn something. Otherwise, it's a challenge. Please continue.
So, you're right, because they need to actually unlearn and relearn everything, because you're trying to tell them that all that was theoretical. Even if you've done practice teaching during B.Ed, it just doesn't come handy, because I do not know why we have not kind of, revised our curriculum, why we have not seen how it needs to be made more relevant to the 21st century education that we are looking at. So there is such a wide gap between how they are being trained and what they find in schools and what is the expectation of a school. So for a school like ours, professional development programs is something which is a part and parcel of a teacher's life. We do it almost every Saturday. There's something, we share the best practices. So every teacher, even now, when you're using the digital field, there's so many teachers who found so many new apps, so many new things that they can incorporate in the lessons. And we've decided that we are going to meet every Saturday, and at least 2 teachers, whichever wing they belong to, are going to share what they brought into their lesson, which made it unique, interesting, where kids immediately connected with them. One is this. Experiential learning is something that we always emphasize on, and we feel that is something which is lacking somewhere in our system, because
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
more,
Yeah, I will limit you here because questions are coming thick and fast. I think your individual questions are going out of the window. Dr. Dr. Sarita Tripathi, Neeta madam, if this is a bigger question, I'll read it out for you. If you look at education policies for online classes of other countries, their main focus is to keep the child happy at home. Here we are working dominantly on completion of syllabus for senior classes. How is it going to affect our children? Looking for some light on it. Dr. Sarita Tripathi. Excellent question.
Yes.
Neeta madam.
Dr. Sarita, a learning continuum has to be maintained. In junior classes, if the focus is definitely to keep the child happy, even in senior classes, it should be the aim. But at the same time, we keep hearing CBSE is going to hold the exam next year. It's not going to be not cancelled. I remember asking Mr. Anurag Tripathi, CBSE secretary, can at least 10th class exam be not held next year? He said, we haven't even thought about it. We're only thinking of reducing the syllabus. I said, if you haven't thought about it, please think about it, because why should the children go through a board exam when this year is so uncertain? So because of the board exam pressure, as well as the pressure that the children have put upon themselves due to parental expectation to get into a right professional college, we cannot sacrifice academics, at least for 11th and 12th. It is a must. The parents expect us to also teach, and I as a parent and a principal feel that 11th and 12th are capable enough to learn and we should teach. But junior classes, but again, there should also be some element where they can unwind themselves on an online class. But the point is, if you have too many co-curricular activities, which we have in life skill activities, the time for the activities becomes so much more than you just have 1 or 2 academic periods. And then the syllabus had been reduced, rationalized, but that would also mean that the children are owning up learning. If they
Yeah,
are
ma'am.
good readers,
Yeah.
Commander Banga
Yeah,
said.
I agree with you. Principals, yeah, ma'am. I get you. I'm short of time. My apologies. We have got about 3 to 4 minutes only. The principal and the teachers are between a rock and a hard place. There are no easy answers to it. And I think most schools have kind of got the balance right. I do not think any one of us is driving it, or if they are, I think you must get back to your principals and teachers, have a mature discussion with the schools and get it going. The last question which we'll take before we take closing comments: most Indian parents teach their wards to not waste money. I believe for children, wastage is an abstract idea. They don't teach them how not to waste anything. The idea of entrepreneurship is to be your own boss, work limitlessly, and live on terms set by the self. What is the role of schools and teachers in allowing students to attain financial independence early in life? What must be done and told by us in this regard? An excellent question. I will request Nikita madam to answer, and maybe Commander Banga to add on. And after that, we'll go for closing comments. Nikita madam, this is by Deepthi Sharma.
All right. So Dipti, I would like to just take on this question. I feel, yes, you're right, that they need to understand, and to be entrepreneurs, you need to be independent, you need to be creative, you need to have critical thinking in place, you need to have ideas. And ideas only emerge out of creativity. So as institutions, I think we should encourage new ideas to come forth. We should encourage children to speak and discuss something that crosses their mind, and not just snub them because you need them to fall under a particular frame.
I'll interrupt you. She's talking about wastage as an abstract concept and what we can do to do that. I'll come back to you, ma'am. Yeah, Nikita.
Okay. So wastage as an abstract concept, I mean, now wastage we are discussing in terms of time, I assume. That's what she's talking about.
Time, money, everything. I mean, this is a problem which parents, parents tend to conveniently roll the ball onto the schools. It's a collective effort we have to do. If the student is allowed to play with iPad because the parents are busy somewhere else, if you expect him not to be extravagant or wasteful, it doesn't happen. Continue, ma'am. I'll get back to both the panelists on this. Yeah.
So I feel the freedom to be able to explore different things, this wastage in terms of what the teacher feels or what the parent feels about wastage of time may also be a time where a child is exploring his potential. So you cannot look at time spent by the child to be on his own and to explore different things as wastage per se. So it may be time well spent where suddenly you may that the child comes up with certain things that you may not give that child time for when you are doing a structured pattern where you are forcing and compelling them to think in a particular way and present work in a particular way. So definitely waste is an abstract concept. I do agree with
Commander Banga, I have to just tighten up because Neeta ma'am also wants to answer. 30 seconds for this before we go for concluding remarks.
Okay, sir. In one line only, I'll say here again, each student must be encouraged and able to build up that much confidence where they are, as they grow, they can take a risk. Because for any entrepreneurship, risk is a one part which is to be taken. Unless until they are confident at this age, they won't be in a position to take a risk as they grow. And there is nothing compelling, they will be encouraged to do it.
Yeah. Neeta ma'am, your additional points in about 30 seconds.
The homes have to be role models for avoiding wastage. First of all, you cannot just point it to the schools. The schools are trying to have uniform policy, uniform, minimum stationery, not extravagant, the birthday celebrations to be mild. So schools are doing its bit, the parents have to support the schools.
Yeah. Excellent way to conclude those questions. There are still more questions. I'm afraid we don't have time for the same. For all the panelists, thank you for being so wonderful in being sporting to answer all the questions. Concluding remarks, your 2 points you want all of us to take home. I start off with the man in the group because I started with the ladies. Commander Banga, 2 things you want all our listeners to take home.
Now, first of all, they all must take home. Very positivity has come up during this entire exercise, and they must know what to do and how to motivate the students to learn. This is one part. Second is, for entrepreneurship, build up a confidence in them.
Build up a confidence in them. So what is your advice for metamorphosis as a sailor, as somebody who has seen, what is the one thing metamorphosis must focus upon?
I think they are already doing it very nicely. They started as a, all youngsters are there. They have taken a risk and they are on a very right track. And they, for the publicity of theirs, they must give a wide publicity. I think which still they are lacking. And I am sorry, but the more they give it, the more they will earn.
हाँ, दिशा को आपने काम दे दिया. Nikita madam, your concluding thoughts. You are muted.
All right. I'd just like to add here that during this period, we should maximize what the digital platform provides us in terms of opportunities. There is a lot that is available there. So let's look at improving the learning, literacy, life skills in the students, entrepreneur skills in the students. Let's look at not keeping them in front of the screen only for academics from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Let's be sensible about the number of classes that we plan. Let's look at maximizing out of those classes. Let's look at providing them a very vibrant curriculum within the digital platform that is available to us. And let's just, show empathy to one another and understand that these are times, these are tough times. None of them have been, these are very unprecedented times. We've not gone through this at all. We do not know when it will end. So meanwhile, let's just stick together as beings, who are able to enhance each other's emotional quotients and who are able to understand that in these times, whatever's possible, whatever's best, the schools and the parents and the students are doing under the circumstances.
Great thoughts, positive to end. Neeta Arora madam, your concluding thoughts.
Gratefulness, express it. Start doing that with your parents at home. Start doing with your siblings, your friends, your relatives, your teachers, more importantly, teachers. If you give respect to your gurus, you will get back learning in abundance. Have positivity in yourself. Let it transmit from you to all other sources, and the world will be a better place. When you are positive, COVID is nothing. COVID is also a passing time. We have come through many pandemics. We'll go through this as well. And we have learned lessons, and we'll continue to learn lessons. Be lifelong learners. Be a good reader. That's all.
Right. Vatsala Hegde, a very sincere educationist. She has got a question. This COVID has proved a great leveler. Do you think there will be great innovative change in our education system all over? I will conclude with remarking on that. Yes, there will be changes. No, there won't be complete change because we are so focused on our present sense of inertia. There will be changes. My own thoughts are that the teacher has to now become a learning curator. From the guru to the educationist, to the educator, to the teacher, to the facilitator, a learning curator where the WhatsApp, Google, Facebook universities have to be verified. And the teacher has to learn to say, I do not know. I am going to collaborate with you. I am sorry. My apologies. I am learning from you. If that happens, there will be a new generation of teachers who will transform this world for these children of the 21st and 22nd century. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for a fascinating discussion. Thank you for sticking to the time limits. And thank you to each one of you for being sporting, and specifically to all the three of you for honestly saying we are vulnerable in some cases we do not know. I enjoyed every bit of it. Back to you, Disha.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a great conversation. I would like to thank all the panelists. We've taken a lot of insights, a lot to learn from all of you, and all your concluding statements. I'm sure the viewers and I will surely take it up. Commander sir, what you said, I will surely think about it and take it forward at Metamorphosis. So looking forward to a lot of thought-provoking conversations like these with educationists every week. So thank you all for joining this session today at the episode 3 of Dialogue with Educationists. Next week would be something really, really exciting. So stay tuned. See you next week. Please have a safe day, and goodbye. Thank you.
And students take up their programs. They're good. They're very good. And
Thank
Colonel
you.
Shekhar, you were absolutely wonderful. the way you
Wonderful.
coordinated
Yes.
this.
Thank you. You made it possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colonel sir. Thank you, Disha, and thank you, Nikita and Nita.
Thank you.
Thank you to each and every one of you. God bless you. Stay safe. Bye.
And
Thank
to
you.
the participants for bearing with us. Audience.
For tolerating us. Thank you.
Thanks to the participants
Yes.
In
all.
case any of you have questions, I've dropped in my email. I'll surely address those questions to the panelists and they'll get back to you. So thank you so much and we'll stay
Thank
tuned.
you.
Thank you.
Good day.
And we
Bye.
love talking to you. You know it. So
Ma'am,
it's
I
two
must
questions.
inform you, the
Bye,
majority
Nita.
of questions
Bye-bye.
came up, from the Man School.
Thank you, Banga sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nita.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Disha, for a beautiful bringing together.
Thank you so much, Neeta ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye.